Hey everybody, coming at you again, back-to-back podcast. Really excited about our next guest. A little bit of a change of pace of some of the last couple episodes. So, Ronnell, why don't we turn it over to you and have you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Ronelle Nolan, President, CEO, Health Agents for America. Been in the business since I was 18 years old. Decided that agents needed someone to stand up and fight for them. The one day that I was told we didn't need to be paid a commission, I decided that we had to create HAFA, and it took about a week. Started kicking butt after that.
So when was that specifically? Which time we were told we weren't going to get paid commissions?
It was a bill. I worked for another association. I was a lobbyist, and it was a bill in Louisiana, and they said it was an antitrust violation. 13 years ago, I hired an attorney, and he said it's not, and we haven't stopped since, and I haven't stopped saying the word commission, and I haven't dared anybody to tell me I don't need to be paid.
So here it is. That was, you said, 12, 13 years later, something like that. Still challenges, just in different ways, right?
Correct.
Same fight.
So what were you selling then at that time?
It was ACA before it was about at ACA. ACA had just started rolling, and we knew somebody needed to educate the folks.
Well, it was such a smooth launch. You know,
it was amazing. I was telling somebody I was up in the middle of the night crying because I couldn't get this disabled guy enrolled and writing President Obama. You know, like, help me.
How did that go?
Was it a lot of?
It didn't go good.
Was it a lot of people's health back then, or what was it?
No, in Louisiana, it was Blue Cross is the big gorilla. United Healthcare comes in a little bit, and then Ambetters come in the later years.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been in insurance since you were 18 years old, and then you really started picking up the fight for advocacy about 13 years ago. Maybe kind of parlay into a little bit about, tell us what HAFA does right now and kind of some of the things that you're currently working on. What are the top 3 initiatives or goals of HAFA right now?
It's important to know that the last couple of years with CMS and the ACA, agents have been treated like stepchildren. I don't think we could have been slapped around more by CMS than ever before. They should be ashamed of themselves, the way that we were treated. The agents that lost their certifications that were innocent, totally ridiculous. So this year, it's all about taking our industry back. We have new administration. We have amazing people. There was one gentleman that talked yesterday that was from CMS who was not there, and all I can say is, bye-bye, you were part of the problem. But things are going to change.
How did that interaction go?
Well, I did throw down my purse, threw down my phone, and all of a sudden somebody put a microphone in my face. And I asked him, he was very passionate about the folks that are losing their job over DOGE. And, of course, I don't think that anybody should lose their job. But I asked him where the passion was when he was taking all my agents' jobs and business and livelihood. And he kind of lost it just a little bit. But he needed to hear that. And he still thought he was innocent, but I did report. And CMS does know this morning.
I love
So they have a wanted poster with you, like in their office?
Well,
the current administration, the current regime as well?
No, I'm going to tell you that the old, and there could be whistleblowers, and you're not far off. You are not far off. Absolutely. When I say rampant and horrible, and that was the first thing that Kaiser News came out with that I said that was going on in the CMS, fraudulent activity, that all the fraud is on the back of CMS and it's their fault. Maybe that sign was in the office. Maybe it was.
Well, this is getting good. When you say
going deep very quick.
Yeah, we've talked very much at length. When you talk about the fraud being on the side of CMS, what are you talking about specifically?
Because CMS allowed people to be enrolled by name, date of birth, state.
Yep.
They knew that. They've known it forever. But what happened is when the Biden administration said anybody under 150% of poverty could change at any time, the fraudulent entities came in. And I'm not going to say fraudulent agents. I'm not calling them agents. They're entities. They came from other countries. And CMS could have stopped it. They could have added a 2-factor. They could have done anything. They refused to do anything because they wanted the numbers. person who spoke yesterday spoke all the time about how many members he wanted to have enrolled. That's all he cared about.
Right. Well, and I would even tell you, obviously, things have changed significantly over the last year, and some of those, we saw the I-10 business kind of go away, obviously. And even, last night I talked to a carrier that said they were losing a huge chunk of business because April 1st, a lot of that business that was zero premium is dropping off. If they don't have a $5, $10 premium, those plans are being dropped. And I talked to one carrier that was losing 250,000 lives today. So that kind of, to your point, obviously that business has started to shed over the last year.
I think that you're going to see the changes that are going to be made by this new administration is just going to make things better. It's going to make some people uncomfortable. I received a call from CMS, and he said, Ronnell, are y'all going to survive? And I said, absolutely. Y'all tried to kill us last year. We're going to survive. Whatever box you put us in, we're going to survive. So whatever it looks like, we've done it before, we'll do it again. Good agents will stand up and will survive.
I always say that about FMOs too, and I always say, look, if there's a nuclear bomb that drops, the cockroaches are going to survive, and so are the FMOs.
That's funny.
We're always going to survive.
We'll find a way, right?
Exactly.
Life finds a way, as Jeff Goldblum says.
Exactly. We're very resilient. So, they can throw whatever they want out there, but from a distribution perspective, as far as, FMOs, agencies, agents, we always find a way, because we feel like we have such a valuable part in the supply chain and such value that we provide to consumers. We're just so necessary that's not going to change anytime soon. And I really, one of the big reasons we wanted to have you on is we do very much appreciate the work you're doing. It is very needed. We've talked to other organizations, there's other professional organizations throughout the country, and we've even been a little bit critical over the years about, look, we all work for the consumers, but there's tons of consumer advocacy groups out there. We need organizations that are working on our behalf in the agent and agency distribution space. So very much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all have the same goal. We're trying to get there different, the same way, but I've chosen to do it a whole lot different. And, I come in as a bulldog. I do not take prisoners. I am going to get what we need. And somebody says, well, don't talk about commissions. Why? We deserve to be paid. Don't tell people what you need. Why? Do they have ESP? If you have 5 minutes with a senator, you tell them what you need. And I keep saying our stars are aligned. Speaker of the House, Louisiana, personal friend. How many people can say they had donuts and coffee on his balcony? I can say I've done it several times. Who has the majority leader, Steve Scalise, personal friend. Senator Cassidy, who is in charge of Senate help, that makes all the decisions with help, is in my will. He gets my Marilyn Monroe picture. These are relationships that are going to change our lives because we're going to use them. We couldn't use them before because they said, Ronnell, this administration, we can't get anything done. This administration, we can get some things done.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I think that was bipartisan complaints seemed to kind of, CMS didn't seem to be super responsive. And when you looked at a lot of the comments or even the minutes from the notes with legislators after or right before the election, even that was a pretty bipartisan complaint, was that CMS was just not really very responsive or would take months with limited answers.
Or they wouldn't give clarification that payers or other parties that were impacted by legislative decisions would say, hey, can you clarify what this means? And you would not get an answer.
Why do you think it ended up being like that?
Well, I'll tell you something funny. The first thing I told Peter when I went to visit him, as soon as he got his position, was you keep releasing these proposed rules in the middle of open enrollment when you know we can't answer, number one. Number two, you put a whole list of people with their phone numbers, tell us to call, and then they say they can't give you any help during the comment period. That's dumb. Stop doing that. And then last administration, people said, do they read these? I know a personal story with the Medicare recording. Somebody called me from Senate Help and said they had a call with CMS, and there were 6 people that commented that said they needed Medicare recordings. Just 6, not 1,000, not 10,000, 6. So I had a call with CMS. I said, how many people do you need to make these stupid rules? I mean, does it take a lot? Is it a few? And I said, what about 6? Does 6 sound good? And they're like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that administration made rules based on people that did not need these crazy things. So I think that we're going to see some of those things roll back. And I really believe this administration is going to read these rules and comments. So I've been encouraging everybody, please comment. And I don't care which way you feel, because we all feel different. Just reach out. Let them hear what you think and blow CMS's system up. Blow that computer system up.
For those that may not know how, can you describe how agents could do that?
Absolutely. If you're a HAFA member, I'm going to give you the link. But it's on the CMS link, their website, and you just follow the link, read the different proposed rules, and then you just send an email. It's simple as pie. It's not hard. It's not complicated.
So, hey, Ronnell, talk to us right now about, there's obviously a lot of things. Like, we could probably go through a laundry list of 10 to 20 items right now that you're kind of fighting against or trying to affect some change. What are, like, maybe the top 3 things right now this year that you're working on?
Are we allowed to cuss?
A little bit.
Absolutely.
13.
We say PG-13, soft R.
Okay. Can I say damn?
Yeah, of course.
All right. We're going to get our damn commissions back.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that CMS has allowed insurance companies to take our commissions back from Medicare is ridiculous. I put it on CMS's backs. The insurance companies filed the rates were approved, and then they decided we didn't get to be paid. So that is going to happen. Somebody said, how are you going to, huh?
Love to hear it.
And somebody said, well, how do you do that? Well, it takes time. You go to CMS first, but I don't know if people remember back in the day when insurance companies quit paying on SCPs. Mm-hmm. That was me.
Yes.
I worked on CMS till I beat them down, and they gave us our money back. They finally said, Ronnell, I can do something. I can help you. I was actually in Mexico, and they called and said, you need to find internet, and you need to get on this call because they're going to tell you something you want to know. So I know if I can get them to do it on the ACA side, I can get them to do it on the Medicare side, and we're getting our money back. We deserve to be paid.
Yeah, I mean, that one sounds like a pretty universal thing. We just did a podcast with Humana, and I said one of the things that I'm hearing from agents circulating and talking, their big concern of everything going on in the industry is commissions, is some of these plans that went non-commissionable, especially, we've lamented many times that it was really bad to do it during annual enrollment. People had already had a marketing plan. They've already invested in money. They've been out building these networks and serving in the communities.
They signed their contracts.
The contracts, doing exactly what we want good agents and brokers to be doing. And yet those agents and brokers were the ones that were most impacted by a lot of these carriers going non-commissionable, not just on, obsolete, outlier plans that weren't, didn't have a lot of membership, but some of them major catastrophic or their flagship plans, and it was majorly impactful to the beneficiaries and the agents.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say it had a counter effect too, because ultimately, I mean, we look at CMS and things like FMB commissions and how you don't want a broker to have any ethical or moral dissuasion about I'm going to sell or offer this plan or that plan, but then this whole non-commissionable effect really created and exacerbated that environment.
Steering.
Where, of course, you want to talk about regulating steering. Well, if you have plans in the marketplace that don't pay a commission, you want to see high levels of steering. Look what we got, right?
It's absolutely what they did. They did steering. And these insurance companies, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame on you. Shame.
Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly. But there was an insurance company that I had a conversation with, one of the first ones that got rid of Medicare Part D. And I said, how dare you? And they said, well, with the Inflation Reduction Act, we were supposed to pay that $100. Then CMS came back and said, you don't have to. Then we went back to CMS and said, can we adjust our rates to pay commissions? And CMS told them, no. Okay, well, if that's true, they filed their rates, they couldn't. Why did the other people file their rates and they could? Something doesn't mesh. Somebody's not watching the hen house. Something is just not paying attention. Now, what the guy said is we make more money on Medicare Advantage than Medicare Part D. And I said, okay, should my people sign contracts? Should we sign our contracts? You're not paying us. And he said, if you don't pay our contract, don't sign your contract, we're going to call every one of your clients. We're going to switch them to Medicare Advantage, and they're going to be ours. And that was the day I should have implemented recording devices on my phone. And I will always regret that day.
Moving forward, you got them recorded, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
While we're on the topic of...
It's recorded here.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of commissions, and I think the PDP side of things and the commissions on the PDP, in my mind, are completely separate from the issue with the MAPDs and the plans that were already filed. Because at least with the PDPs, with the Part D legislation and the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a whole different set of circumstances that played into that, I feel like, as well. And they did come out with that in advance and basically said, prior to a plan year. It's still not great. We can still discuss that, but the MAPDs, where they're filed, they're approved, and then you had the new terms of last year, which became suppressed and non-commissionable. That was never really a thing, and then you had carriers where you're going, well, it's still there. You just have to find a way to be able to get that application in. You got to go back and paper app it, and then you got to find the fax number from 10 years ago to fax it in, or you got to hire a skywriter or a donkey to send it in, old school postal style.
Right.
Those are separate.
The reason I created HAFA was so that I could be the foreperson. I could be the person who said whatever I wanted to say to the insurance companies, because I don't have contracts with them and I don't care. But they need to figure it out. If you look at the stocks, you look at the CEOs, you look at what kind of cars they drive, you look at their private jets, you look at all that stuff that my agents don't have, you figure it out. If you can't run a company where you can pay commissions, then you need to shut down your company and let somebody else do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. And, a lot of people think all the time that agents are the private jets, are the Lambo drivers, are this. And, Dan and I've said the average insurance agent earns roughly $56,000 a year, Right. And so for every agent that's making $150,000 or $200,000, you have other agents that are barely eking by or almost doing social work type levels of compensation.
And I think that's a good way to equate it too, right? A lot of what we do in the broker community and agent community is very similar to social work, right? I mean, how often do you see these brokers and agents doing work? And it was a big topic this last year that they weren't even getting paid for, right? So many clients and customers that they were helping, that they were taking to the pharmacy, that they were enrolling on a plan, that they weren't getting paid a commission. And then how often are the brokers helping them connect to other resources in the community, helping them with their LIS, sometimes helping them with their housing, or connecting them to Meals on Wheels or whatever it is. And it's kind of like, it's very noble work when you find a good agent who's doing a good job. We like the idea of we love what we do, because at the end of the day, we get paid to help people, right? And it very much is like social work. And I think that needs to continue to be the message, that drum that we bang about what we do and why we're important.
I mean, it's about relationships. It's not about sales. I mean, I know agents that pick up people and bring them to the doctor. I brought somebody to the IRS. I was like, what am I doing here? But the poor lady needed help. I mean, I went through, I was like, I'll sit with you. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But that's what agents do. It's about relationships, about loving people, about helping people. And it's not about the money, because we don't make, I mean, when $10, $20, $30 a month, and you think that's a lot of money, it's not. $4 on Medicare Part D, that's not a lot. I mean, we're not asking for a whole lot of money. We're asking for a fair wage for a fair day's work.
Yeah, and I actually, I'm okay with it. I think if you do a great job, like we talk about it all the time, we want to attract great agents into the industry, and people have to at least be able to make a good living, and you want to reward the people who are doing it the right way. If you're able to help a lot of people and provide a lot of value, then you should be compensated commensurate to some other position in the market. And, while I have you about commissions, we talk all the time about one of the changes in the industry was when they started prorating commissions, specifically on Medicare Advantage, and then the way the compensation metrics are set up for PMPMs, it makes it extremely difficult for a new agent to get started in the industry. And so here we all want good brokers to get in the business. We all want the next generation of insurance agents in there, but yet we have these financial fundamentals of the compensation in the industry that make it so difficult that the financial runway for a new agent to get started in the industry is so difficult, right?
It is, absolutely.
So if you're a new agent, a path that that's viable is, well, you got to take a job. You know, you got to take a job with the carrier. You got to take a job at a call center. You got to take a job with an LOA shop or something like that. And it's because the compensation
Is not there.
is so difficult. The marketing and the acquisition of on the front end is so difficult and so expensive for a lot of agents. There's a long runway of timing and training to become a good agent. There's an investment of time and resources, and then the compensation trickles there, you know, on up. And Dan says it all the time. It's the best get rich quick slow scheme there is, but
Get rich slow.
I don't even know if it's
slow.
rich. It's get somewhat adequately
Pay your
compensate.
electricity.
Yeah, you know, you go, hey, if you do this really well for 6 months to a year, you know, your residuals might be to the point that you can pay your car payment, and then it'll go from there. You know, and so
Kind of a hard recruiting pitch.
what do you hear on that end about, you know, maybe fixing some of those economics up front that are difficult for agents in the very beginning?
I think that all of this is just on the precipice of what's going to happen. I don't think until all the pieces and parts, till Oz is there and we figure out who's going to be under Oz and we start having these hard conversations with CMS and different people, that we can bring suggestions to CMS and then they can bring it to the insurance companies who sell the product that is a Medicare product. So I think that we need strong agents that say, hey, we have a great idea. What about this, this, and this? And that's why I love my members, because they're the smartest people I've ever met. It's not me. I'm not smart. They are. And they say, look, we could do this. And I'm like, didn't think about that. Great idea. So I think this is the beginning. And we're going to see change.
Very good. So compensation being a very, very key priority of your organization. What are the other kind of big initiatives beyond? Number one was get us our damn money and our commissions.
Right.
What else are you working on?
Absolutely get involved. You know, everybody wants to sit at home and say, I don't want to complain about whatever. We go to DC probably once a month. We have an office there. I bring about 10 agents from a specific state, and we hit that state hard. We meet with the senators. We meet with the congressmen. We take them to dinner. We take them everywhere. We use our PAC dollars. It's got to be advocacy. It's got to be involvement. And you have a group of folks now that want to work with agents. But there are still folks like Senator Wyden who thinks that agents are bad. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go see Senator Wyden in a couple of weeks. But, you know, we have to, as agents, you have to be loud and proud. And, you know, I've had so many people say, don't go into his office and talk about commissions. Why? You know, I get so angry when we're not supposed to tell what we need. We're private, small businesses, most, and we deserve to tell legislators what we need. But everybody needs to get involved. Get involved, state, federal, and your Department of Insurance.
Yeah, and I think you brought it up. You don't always like name names, but since you went there and named names, definitely I would say Senator Wyden and his committee was very much at the front and center of a lot of that, I would say, work and that movement, I guess I would say, over the last 2-3 years that really kind of hit, you know, peak. You know, really this last year was just, there was a lot of momentum behind that this last year.
And from your advocacy, what if you could sum up, what is his and people that think like him, what is their issue with brokers? What do they think is the problem?
They have no idea what we do. None at all. When he had his bill last year, we went and met with his staff. I liked some of the things. He wanted to go after bad people. Yep. Good. He wanted to hold CMS accountable. Mm-hmm. Good. But this latest insanity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring 10 agents to his table and say, I want you to meet these individuals who are good people, who work hard, and then you tell them that you're going to, you know, charge them $10,000 fee because of something you don't understand. They need to meet us. But the good thing is, his bill's not going anywhere.
Well, that's great. And, you know, and if I hope to have the opportunity one time to have a conversation with Senator Wyden or a panel like that. And the question I would always pose that we've talked about before is, have you ever tried to help one of these seniors before that especially, you know, when they're turning 65, it's an incredibly complicated process and it's not getting easier. And guess what? No matter how much easier we make it or how much we simplify it or streamline it, it's still very confusing. We run a large Facebook group for Medicare beneficiaries, and they don't know anything. They are all very confused. They stir each other up. It's a very vulnerable population.
And now, like, less trust than ever before.
Correct.
And a lot of the concern is I need help, but I don't know who I can trust and where I can go to because, can I trust a ship counselor? Because then the ship counselor, they're not really that well trained or educated.
They're not qualified.
They're not able to do it really, but they're free, so to speak, or don't get paid a dirty commission because I've heard those dirty brokers are just going to try to screw me and sell me whatever. And then all these other people that are bombarding me, there's a big trust issue that's been created, and it's hard because they want the help, but don't know who and where to trust.
Well, they want to call Joe Namath and have him help them on the phone.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've belabored that theme to no
and
end.
I keep asking for those to go away.
Yeah, I mean,
I will not stop asking.
It's better, but I mean, it's definitely not where it needs to be. But to that point, though, and the call centers have really taken a lump, and they've been a part of it. But when you narrow the marketing and you have so many, again, the common theme is when you have so much bureaucracy and so many regulations and you have so many stipulations that the way that you can market becomes so narrow, then everybody funnels through that one mechanism that's perceived, and it makes it loud and annoying, right? Like, telemarketing people is not the efficient way to reach people these days. It's not efficient cost. It's annoying. Nobody likes it.
And legislators need to see us as people. And that's another thing that I do different. A lot of people, they do the big cons and they have their talking points and everybody's going to say the same thing. That's not what I do. I say, you're from your area. You tell your story. You tell your story. And I want them to hear personal stories related to what the issues are, not, crazy stories, but that are issue related, and they start seeing us as real people and as agents and that are helping, and that's what they've got to see. We've got to change our image, and I don't think we did. I don't think we changed our image. I think it's that they think we're what we're not, but we've got to change it. We've got to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that change the image. I think it's more like we got to advocate for ourselves and do a better job selling us, because we've talked about this quite a bit the last couple podcasts, but we've been kind of vilified, for some reason. And there's a bunch of different reasons why agents have become the fall guy or the scapegoat. But why do you think that? Is it because we're an easy target, or why do you think that agents have become kind of?
Well, it was an easy target because CMS did it. They set us up. They wanted this to be a government-run entity. So why not create fraud and abuse, get rid of all of us? They run it. We don't have jobs. That's exactly what happened. They could have fixed it. They could have fixed it a long time ago. They could have fixed it under the administration, but they didn't realize, exactly what was happening. So, yeah, it needs to change.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, while we're on the topic of, if I could, and maybe you can present this to Senator Wyden and their team, but it's going, have you ever tried to encounter one of these individuals when they're looking for help with their Medicare? They don't know anything. And they don't even know how to get on Medicare. They don't know how to activate their Part B. They don't know the rules of, if you're drawing Social Security or if you're not. They have no idea. Then they have no idea what options are available to them. What's the benefit of staying on original Medicare and getting a supplement? What's the advantage of a supplement, an Advantage plan?
Right.
And it's so complicated. And then, like, one of the things that you keep mentioning is bringing agents from local markets. It's different in not just every state, but every metro, every county, rural, and what is great and what works for one consumer in one county isn't necessarily the same a county over, and when you have all these market dynamics playing there, it makes brokers, and especially local brokers, that critical juncture, that critical intersectionality right there, where they solve a great need. And so we're always saying, no, we're the best value in the equation. We're the most critical rubber meets the road component.
Yeah, we have to start thinking outside the box. We can't keep doing the same old, same old. And I'll give you an example. CMS, when they created the Navigators, they said they created them because agents were not, they didn't speak to the poor, they didn't speak different languages, they would not go to rural areas. And this was on a podium.
Right. I would say the contrary to all of those, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what we did recently was put together a video of the faces of HAFA and all the different people that represented different countries and different languages. And CMS said, could you please send me that? So it got their attention. So why not do something So it's similar with seniors,
Hey,
you know?
we all have so many stories to share, even to the point of like back in the day. This is like maybe a story for another time, but to even having an RV out on an Indian reservation, that we've done, personally, and finding people who are Dene speaking for like those tribes, and and how often do you hear of HAFA members who, you're trying to find agents to serve certain like populations too, right? Like certain like populations of Tagalog speaking, or Mandarin, or whatever that is, in all these geopop areas, and that already exists. Like we already have this ecosystem. Like we've already figured that out. And so when I hear about like the reasoning behind of like, oh, we gotta like really scale up the Navigators because this doesn't exist, it's like, no, not only does this exist, it actually is thriving and doing very well,
and far more cost efficient, right?
Right.
Free market principles are always going to solve things the most cost effective and efficient way. You don't need to overregulate everything.
Yeah, I think you learn as you go. And one thing we've added to our Find an Expert on our website is the languages spoken. Because if somebody is looking for an agent in their city and they want someone who speaks their language, that's where they're going to go. So that's, that works. We're just trying to think of different ways to attract people, help people. We have amazing agents. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah,
rock stars.
When you say that CMS asks for those videos, and Dan and I, we've had this podcast. We've been going pretty strong for a couple of years and have a lot of listenership.
Is it 2 years?
2 years, yeah. And, we feel like it's our way of advocating and getting, crossing barriers as well. But it seems incredulous to me, or hard to believe, that CMS could go, wait, that's what brokers do? Like,
to this day.
Are we really that far removed from like our government legislators and our regulators that they actually don't have a pulse on the critical need? Are we that far off?
And realize that I have been there since day one, saying in the beginning, there were CMS PowerPoints that talked about agents and brokers versus navigators, and the fact that we were biased and navigators were non-biased, all this stuff that was just wrong. So of course I went crazy, went to CMS, and they pulled those things back. And then they decided to hire Dean Mose, who has been our, king of the ACA and helped us so much. And the then leader of CSIO, who now is the leader of Ambetter, we were in D.C., and we had the big snowstorm. I don't know if y'all remember, if y'all were there, but couldn't leave. And he said, I was going to invite you to my house, but it's a snowstorm. And I was like, dude, I will get a snowmobile and get to your house. Give me your address. And he said, no. But I've been working on these people since day one. So every time there's somebody, the first thing I do is make an appointment. The first thing I do is fly up, because we have to stay in front of their face 24/7 because they still don't get it.
Yeah, I think, we know a lot of the carriers, and I think the leadership especially is generally very well intentioned. And I know that they also feel similar frustrations of, playing in the sandbox that they don't necessarily set to, right? And so I think there's a lot of, there's three parties involved that all need to kind of sit at the table. And I wish that there could be more forums for CMS and regulators, and I hope that happens with the new administration, that we all have a seat at the table, right? Agents and brokers, the carriers, honestly, the beneficiaries as well, representing themselves.
Right.
And that there can be mutually beneficial discussions, because there's plenty of opportunity for everybody. There's plenty of dollars in the equation and the ecosystem when everybody does a good job, but it's just making sure all those interests are mutually aligned and we're working together ultimately for the benefit of that beneficiary, right?
And they already have in plan meetings to start meeting with folks. So that's already being, because I got an email saying, what days can you not do this? Because we want to make sure HAFA's going to be there. So they're doing it. But I think we need to do it on a broader scope, and I'm totally with you. If we brought all the pieces, because they meet with us, they meet with the carriers. I don't think they meet with the consumers. But, if they met with all of us together and let us all, collaborate, amazing things could happen.
So Ronnell, talk to us a little bit about, for all the agents who are listening to the episode, to the podcast, if they're not familiar with your organization, how much are dues for agents? And really, like, I see the value, obviously, in the work that you're doing, right? And that's why we're having you on, because really, somebody's got to wave the flag, somebody's got to be in their face, and somebody has to, like, get the movement to happen. We have so many agents that are just very complacent, that are kind of like, well, there's a lot of things I'm concerned about, but I'm not really going to do anything about it.
Or they don't know what to do.
Yeah, and so we're trying to motivate, bring that awareness to them and say, hey, at least bare minimum, start joining some of these organizations to start getting involved so that we can be a little bit more unified and that we can have a stronger voice and a stronger influence. And if you don't like the way things are happening, then, stand up, get off your arse, so to speak, and go do something about it, right? So talk to, like, what are, like, the dues look like, and what does that money go to?
It's very interesting because I'm a type person that I'm always fighting for the poor. I'm fighting for the little person. And when I started HAFA, I said I wanted everybody to be able to afford to join. I didn't want anybody to have to quit another association or whatever. So the minimum is congressional and it's $23 a month. And I keep saying, child, I'm worth $23 a month. I mean, come on. I fight really hard. I leave my house every week. I miss my family. And then the next is senatorial. It's $560 a year. And the difference in those two is under congressional, we put your name and state and what products you sell, what languages you speak under your state and city. Senatorial, if you're licensed in different states, we put you in every state. Legislators go there, other agents go there. It's used and promoted for that purpose. And then the highest is $1,500, and that sits on the presidential board. So if you really want to make a difference and you want to make sure that you have a voice and you're the first person that I picked to go to D.C. with me, then you want to be presidential. Right now, we probably have about 50 or 60 presidential members. I am, like, blown away every day about when I look at the things that we have accomplished. But the money goes towards the little bit of money that I make, which isn't a lot, but I didn't do it because I wanted the money. And I still sell a little bit of insurance, so I have it. And then we have 2 PACs, HAFA PAC Louisiana, HAFA PAC Federal, and those dollars help me go to Washington, us give money, have, breakfast with Congressman Crenshaw, Markwayne Mullen from Oklahoma, all the different folks that we go up and visit with. So the dues kind of pay the operations. My parents gave me my office. Our office is free, so HAFA never pays for anything like that. And I just got a little baby raise, so I was, like, happy. I hadn't got a raise, like, 15 years, so not really 15 because we just started it, but it's probably 10 years.
Well, there you go. Well, I know the dollars are well utilized too, but I like hearing you outlay it because, again, there's a lot of expenses. I mean, even just to go jump on a plane and go to DC, anywhere from $500 to $1,500, depending on when you're booking your flight.
And that's the huge thing.
Yeah.
Our vice chair of finance this time said, Ronnell, your travel was really expensive this year. And I said, I know, because if somebody calls and says, can you come to Washington tomorrow? I am on a plane to Washington tomorrow.
Yep.
If somebody says, will you meet with me? I am going. So I would say a big portion of our money does go to travel.
Travel, lodging,
it does.
and your expenses like the meals, all that. It really does. And we experience it on our side. It's a huge expense in the business. It's just, this is a very much, as much as people want to turn this into like a commoditized business that's very binary, it's a relationship business.
Right.
Whether you're an agent who is selling in a community with a consumer, or us with carrier partners or with legislators or whatever it may be,
Right.
It is very much a people business.
Yeah, and it's just important to know that I started this business not because I thought I was going to be rich. Never thought it. Don't want to be. Don't care to be. I'm fine, doing what I do, live in my old house. I'm good. But I want to help people. I want to help as many people as I can. I want us to have as many agents that we have engaged. I want so many bulldogs that we can march on Capitol Hill, take them all down, take everything over and do everything that we need to do.
Yeah, and to kind of put things into perspective too, when you go through like your dues, whether it be like the senatorial package or the presidential package or whatever agents are going to be and get involved, I would say if you think about it this way, it's less than or what you make on a commission of one policy sell. If you really break it down fundamentally to say, hey, you're in a business, it's hopefully a thriving business. If you're a broker who's writing business, you're getting paid commissions. What is it to have the commission of one policy sale go towards these kind of efforts that can really ultimately curb or change things on the trajectory of the industry?
Right. It's none of your insurance. It's your insurance for your profession. And Fabulous Faith, our bulldog, says it's less than a dog bone. I mean, come on.
Hey, yeah. Come on! We should appeal more than the Sarah McLachlan commercial with the sad music and the dogs. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, and I'll say, whatever you pay yourself, Ronnell, you certainly work hard for your money. Because you're always out there hustling. You're always out there. You're not sitting back, even just casually observing you during this conference. You're very active and proactive. You're talking to agents. You're engaged in conversations. You are obviously very noticeable. You're putting yourself out there, and you certainly work very hard, and I very much appreciate it. And I think you're a good representation of brokers. I think that the industry's tried to act like most brokers are, some seedy foreigner in a call center scamming seniors over the past 3 years.
A bunch of grifters.
And I'm like, that's like literally none of the brokers. That's a completely separate thing. That's a fraudulent entity.
Those are perpetrators that somehow got into our industry.
Yeah, I'm like, but yet how are you trying to paint the normal brokers as that? Because by and large, the vast majority of brokers are very honest and reputable. And even throughout this entire convention, the conversation is like, how can we do a better job helping seniors and therefore, make some money? Everybody wants to make money, but nobody's out there. How can we nefariously screw these people and all do a better job of taking advantage of the system? That's not the tone of the conference.
How long have you seen agents stand back and not do anything? Not asked to be paid or recognized as a good person. They do nothing. They're in the background going, we're good people, we're hard workers, but we're not going to tell anybody about it. No, we need to tell everybody. They need to meet us. They've got to understand how good we are, because you're right. Walk around and see these rock stars. These people are amazing.
Yep. I'm in a different place these days than I was many years ago, but I can't tell you how many dirt roads I drove down.
Thank you.
2-3 hours away from my home, away from the family, because you'd talk to somebody that was 74 years old, and I'm in my car on a dirt road getting lost somewhere, talking to somebody on their front porch. You know what I mean? And I've been there, done that. And it's no bullshit. I did that for a lot of years. You know what I mean? And it's like, we really do get that part of the business. And the more that we can convey that story, because it's not a story, it's the reality.
The senior market is totally different, because they want somebody to talk to. They want somebody to spend time with them. So it's a long time of spending with these folks and helping them. They just want you to be their friend. They want you to be their family. And I promise, we know the children's names, when their birthdays are, everything about their family, because we've made a relationship. And seniors, even longer time to enroll in the process.
Yep. Well, I would tell you too that I'll commit to be one of your bigger sponsors. We will absolutely do that, and I'll commit to it. Just even here, whether I do a presidential personal one or an agency or whatever, we're happy to do that.
I appreciate it.
Because
that means a lot.
I want the dollars, and I hear your numbers too about having like 100 agents who are like presidential, and I go, those numbers should be like way up. I mean, really.
But remember, I'm still a baby.
Hey.
We're boutique. And I've been the hidden secret. So unless you hear me or you see me, you don't know I exist. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, remember? So most of these people, when they start going to these conferences, they go, who is that? Then they go, okay, we're going to join. Hey, I'm okay.
Hey, those are dollars well spent, because I know you're going to go, be a bulldog for us, and you're going to actually work to affect that change.
Absolutely.
And I honestly do think that we need to get the right stakeholders in the industry in front of the legislators, so that we can have that right voice and hopefully be talking a little bit more reason with some of our lawmakers.
Absolutely. We have got some amazing committee leaders, and I don't know if a lot of agents realize, what committees are in charge of what. But, House Ways and Means does a lot with insurance. Senate Health, a lot. Energy and Commerce, a lot. Energy and Commerce, you have Congressman Carter from Georgia, great friend. Congressman Harshberger from Tennessee, great friend. And both of them are pharmacists. We have got some people that we can really tap into that are not agents, but they are in our scope of business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's a takeaway, what would you, let's ask for a prediction. What do you think's going to happen? What are some positives that you think are going to happen this year? And what are some challenges you think that we face as brokers this year as well?
I think that we're just going to have to learn how to work maybe a little differently. Don't freak out. Don't go bananas. Join an association that's going to tell you what's going on. Don't get your news on Facebook. Unless it's y'all's channel.
It's all very factual.
Unless it's y'all's channel. But, that you need to get involved, get your good information, join, get involved, and be a part of the process, be a part of the answer. I could see myself on the Supreme Court stairs. I could see myself in jail. I could see myself slapping somebody. I mean, I'm going full force, no stopping. I'm going after everybody, and I'm not kidding. I don't care if I have to slap people, whatever. I always say I hug everybody. I don't care if them people are scared. I'm going to hug everybody. Now, I might want to slap them, but I do. That's my thing, is I hug every single person. I have pictures of me hugging the speaker and all these different pictures. Some that my mom's like, don't show anybody that picture. That man's got his eyes closed. He looks a little too happy. But, I believe in relationships. Same thing. Legislators it's relationship. You be their friend. And then when they say we have a senior calling in, we need help, they know who to call. They call a HAFA member because they know they're going to take care of that senior constituent.
Well, maybe me and Mike will take some odds then after this, the over-under, whether you're going to get arrested and thrown in jail or whether you're
going to get on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sue somebody. I just want to.
Well,
I just want to get crazy.
We love the passion, right? I mean,
stuff,
it's the passion in the industry, and ultimately, Dan and I are passionate about the industry. You get to help people with their health and wealth, and if you do a good job, you get adequately compensated for it, and you help enough people, you can have a great living and really feel good about what you're doing. Dan and I have sold a lot of things over our lives, and this was the only one that we found that we ever sold, and you walked out of there going, well, I sure hope I never hear from that person again, And so we love it.
It changed, like for me back in the day when I used to come home with things from people's gardens. I used to come home with, cookies, a loaf of bread, books for my kids.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
You kind of go, this is it. This is my career, right?
And I think it's important. And I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not. I mean, you have to be not afraid of a strong woman. You can't be afraid of standing behind me when I say and do things. But if I'm not your cup of tea, then join somebody else. Get involved with somebody else. I don't care. I'm not particular. But if I am your cup of tea, and if you're not scared of a strong woman and you want to be part of the winners, then you join HAFA.
Very good. That's a good sign-off almost.
Yeah, that was a great pitch. Appreciate your time. And we'll put links to HAFA down below in the episode. And if you want to join, there will be links there as well.
We got to boost up your revenue and get you some more members. We got to get you a little more cash. Yeah. Let's do that. Make some more change.
Exactly.
All right.
Thanks, Ronnell.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Hope it wasn't too crazy for y'all.
No. Nope.